Hey everybody, this is Mr. Todd again, and this is Stories and Solutions, the YouTube version. And I'd like to introduce you guys to Seppi. And first, I'd like to say congratulations on your book. And I'd like you to tell everyone who's listening what the name of your book is and briefly kind of what you would like to say.
Well, hello, everyone. Good evening. And I have to say, first and foremost, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to even be here today. The book Blackersian portrays the coming together of two really different cultures from a child's perspective, and it celebrates the diversity of the child's family. And I try to just paint a clear picture in regards to the customs and traditions that come along with the Persian culture and the Black culture, given that we are a blended family.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what brought this whole adventure about?
It was just unbelievable. One day I sat back, and in the morning, Wesley and I, my husband and I, we were just kind of cleaning up Sunday morning. And usually while we do so, we're either listening to some reggae jams or some pop. And the kids are all involved in regards to this whole, getting the house clean and chores and responsibility. And they were singing along with these songs. And I was just in love with the fact that they're so in tune. That evening, we were invited to my mom's house, and she was playing Persian music. And again, I found Layla and Bijan singing to different variations, different tunes, but they certainly knew the words. And I thought to myself, this is unreal. This magic right here with music, and taking a step further back and looking at this beautiful family that I am so blessed with in regards to having two different cultures that are completely celebrated, not tolerated, because I feel like a lot of times that's what we're against. And it just really made me think of all the things that my children are exposed to, and kind of bring that into life, and having everyone else taking the same lens that I did, because not everyone is just black and white or, black and Hispanic. There's so many different variations in regards to being mixed. Hence why the book, I just started writing, and the dream really became a reality, because the more I started writing, the more I fell in love with this whole notion of what we have at home.
Okay. Now, were you writing prior to that, or is this your first?
My first book, I always had wanted to write a children's book, given my background of being an educator and knowing the importance of creating that connectivity in regards to students, and wanting them to also know about different cultures and perspectives. So it was always a dream, and now it's here, it's reality.
Yeah, it's awesome. You're actually this is off script as well. Like that's what I was gonna tell you. Another thing, I'm not typical. So yeah, you inspired me to continue with what I was doing. So because I hit, we'll talk about it later, but I hit many of those bumps where I thought, why am I doing this, or can I really do this, or whatever it is. And I wrote my first book back when Taj was like 4, so like 6 years ago. And yeah, and I just never, it's there, like I have the illustration, everything. And then when I actually heard from Asia that to go to your signing, I was like, wow, this is really cool, because I remember you talking about it, and then when I read it from the beginning, and I was just like, wow, and I had this same big smile on my face. It's like,
You know, you
that's
were
really
one of the
cool.
first people that I sent it to. I remember when it was a draft at the beginning and I had sent it to you. I had sent it to Ed, and it was important to me, your lens, your perspective. And, you know, when you send that kind of manuscript to someone and you're just sitting here like biting your nails, are they going to think, what is she thinking or what's going on here? But I think over time, I haven't forgotten the purpose of why I wrote this book. And the purpose was that creating a book that celebrates different cultures and being able for someone down the way to be able to look at themselves through this book as a mirror, and open it as a mirror, which I can't wait to tell you a story in regards to that too, but just making that connection.
Okay. So here, we both have blended families, and I kind of liked hearing like the flavor of how you explain it to your children. Um, they'll be asked eventually, like, what are you? I'm sure, right? So
Absolutely.
I I had uh, well, my kids. So when Taj was little, I remember him asking, why does he look like he does? And mom looks like she does, and I look like I do. And I took a glass of milk and I said, this is mom. And I put chocolate syrup and I said, this is dad. And I just stirred it up and I said, look, it's the same color as you. And then I showed him, matter of fact, watch this. I showed him the other day. I said, look how dark you're getting from the sun. And I don't know if you can see my tan,
Yes, I
right?
sure can.
So
People
I
have
told
to.
him, so I said, I get darker and lighter, and whatever. But that's I told them, when people ask you who you are, say you're human.
Right. I love that. Isn't that what it all comes down to?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And as far as right? So that's kind of what I try to teach the kids, that you're powerful as you're gonna allow yourself to be. And you come from all kinds of things, like the roots in the tree, kind of what I tell them. And you draw from each, culture that you came from, when you need to, and that's just kind of what I tell my kids. But
And it's interesting you brought up roots because on the cover, it's a tree that's wrapped around the spine. And at the book signing, I had specifically asked for a quote that says "Roots run deep," because initially essentially that's what it is. I mean, roots run deep,
yeah,
and it's those roots that hold us
yeah,
for the rest of our lives in order to be able to be stable and to be able to have a place that belonging, right? Belonging. And that is just really something that interestingly enough that you brought that up, I had to tie that in there.
so it's like I like the way, well, I've always liked the way you think,
Thank
but
you.
but with the roots and stuff, like the earth, like that we have, when people start to think like that, like how the Native Americans thought, you're one with the earth and you didn't have shoes. um that oneness is like what keeps us together, like we're all
Absolutely.
all connected. Yeah, I think that, well, we're both educators, but I think that they should teach that more than war, more than conquer,
Hmm.
more than separatism, you know
Yes.
but that's for another day. Where so did you have to tell the kids they were mixed, or did they ask you?
They knew. They didn't know. They knew. Specifically, when we took a trip to Utah, where Wesley's black side of the family um, lives, and there was a wedding that we had just purchased a house. It was just rough times, and there was a wedding that was coming along. And I told him this is really important for our kids to have this connection with both cultures. They see ours all the time, but they see the Persian side here all the time. But most of his cousins and black side of the family all live in Utah. Hence why it was so important for us to make that trip.
Okay.
And I always say, when there's a funeral, everyone's on that first flight to go attend the funeral.
Yeah.
Why not change that, ideology and be on that first flight for a wedding and say, sorry, I can't make it. It was financially very difficult after just purchasing a new house. This was 3 months later. But we
Okay.
made it happen so that they have that connection. And on our drive back, they had said it was probably the best couple of days of their lives. And we both looked at each other. We're like, yes, this is it. And then what we noticed was a few times here and there, we took pictures, and Layla would say, that doesn't look like me. I'm black. Why is this picture so light? That doesn't represent me.
Mm.
And I thought, oh yes, this is great. She knows, they know who they are. And I think with, again, the beauty, the richness of both these cultures,
Yeah.
that we celebrate so much. We don't overlook, we celebrate so much. Um, I truly believe that that's what's helped them to know who they are and where they stand and be confident.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that they're not embarrassed to speak Farsi at all, ever,
Well, it
anywhere.
shouldn't be. Like
Absolutely.
I would think, see, but that's what I was talking about. Like you can say, for example, you're um, first generation, right?
Yes.
And then they come in and you taught them Farsi first, and at home that's all you speak, right? And then there's a like a somewhat barrier at school.
Hmm.
That then I could see like you say, oh, maybe I should know this too, right? But they're perfectly fine. So like,
Absolutely. There's
so
right, right.
yeah, like
Absolutely.
so if you were a black kid and you knew Japanese, like
Right.
that should be like you should be celebrating that
Absolutely.
that's a skill. Like I know like broken Spanish, but enough to communicate with people, but I'm not fluent in anything really.
Right. Right.
So that's a great thing, like
I,
especially when you're young.
I agree. It's a
Yeah,
tool they will use for the rest of their lives, and it's something that will really enhance who they are and really bring out the best. I really want to say that.
yeah. And when you're speaking of God, like when you think of uh, sometimes people don't think of why things happen. um, I try to appreciate like things like this. Like why is this happening? I don't always know, but I know it feels right. So this is what I ask.
Right.
This is
That's
what I
right.
asked for, right? So you don't know, they could be trapped somewhere or help someone, and that person only spoke Farsi, right?
And it's
And
already happened.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
when there was a new student, Layla came home. She was in third grade, and she goes, "Mom, there was a new student today," and I was able to help them translate and have them get through the day on their first day.
yeah, see, that's God.
Sure is on many
Yeah,
ways, right?
yeah,
Yes, yes.
100%. I can't remember the names that they call their grandma and grandpa
Hmm.
off the top of my head. But I was going to tell you what I thought was so funny when I was reading it. I was thinking, how weird! Like we have so many similarities. It's bizarre. I was like, wait, my kids call 'em Bama and Papa, like the
See, right,
grandma's Bama, right?
right.
Um,
So ours is Momani and
there you
Babai.
go.
Momani is for my mom, and Babai is for my dad.
Yes.
And it's very universal. I mean, it's not per se actual translation of grandfather, which is Pedar Bozorg, like a grandfather, literally what it comes down to. But it's just like the papas and the pops that you hear.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I agree with you. And a few times we were out and about, and somebody else says Momani, and the kids look at me and say, "Hey, they have a Momani too." Yes,
Yeah. So you talk about the food, but do you blend the food?
all the time.
Okay.
All the time.
Yeah.
And that is also a blessing for my kids to know what jambalaya is at age 8 and 10, and now they're 10 and 12, but they've known for, or all the different parts of the food. And yes, oftentimes if we have some mac and cheese and we're going to pair it up with some Persian food in regards to the rice and the stew, and they just dig in, we don't even think about it anymore, Todd. We
Yeah,
just, it just happens, and I think that's again the beauty of that perspective that you want to look at in regards to what our table looks like.
yeah,
And again, the purpose of why I wrote it, like this needs to be celebrated.
yeah. Like I don't really care about holidays. I've just never have. I'm more like maybe when I was a kid, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like the purpose of the holiday,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
So like I see the importance of roots and stuff like that. Like I understand uh, I'm very about the earth. I'm very much about like if you could put your feet in dirt and heal yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yes.
And I think like people have to have roots. Like when you say you're not afraid to say like it's Black and Persian, and do you feel that there's other things involved? Because like my kids, I have I'm Black, but I'm West Indian
Mm-hmm.
and German, um, Chinese. Uh, what else am I? I think Irish, and then Asia's um, Asian, like Japanese and white and Irish. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right. They belong. Yes. Yes.
you know what I mean? I don't.
I,
Go ahead.
I just feel like, um, oftentimes when I'm in the classroom, you can certainly see the difference between the child that's raised in the family versus the child that's alone and then introduced to other ideas in their own way. And I feel like that also, when there's not a connection, oftentimes I do feel that that tends to shift someone's ideas, separating them, and really dislocating themselves from who they are. But I feel like if the family is strong enough to bring in their culture, their traditions, their values, whatever it may be, it does not have to be. And this is something we talk extensively in our house. Is it doesn't have to be the same ideology. We just respect everybody at all times, and everyone has to. And I think that's how I ended the book. I mean, there's going to be so many different shades of brown that no one can ever sit here and write in a book.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, I feel like that belonging to a place, to a culture, to where someone wants to be is really important. And going back to what you were saying about Earth, connecting this conversation with the fact that when you look at the symbolic items that I named in the book for the half scene, you just made me realize something. They all revert back to Earth.
Right.
There's the sumac, the silverberries, the apples, the fish, the sprouts. That I mean, everything you just said, it just kind of like it just all goes back to that. Every one of those, minus the money, there's money in there.
That's actually my next question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
But to make you kind of understand how it makes me feel good. Thank you, by the way. Um,
Yes.
my questions were based on your book when I'm reading the book and how it makes me identify with it or feel. So I'm asking you about the earth because that's what I'm taking from it. That
Wow.
you're very okay, based on when you gave me the draft, seeing it and listening to like reading it and knowing you, I guess, and seeing the illustration, it made me feel it's a very root-based uh, interpretation of what you see, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so that's kind of why how I asked these questions. But I want you to see something. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh, yes. Different shades of brown right there.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, because that's where I come from. Like my brain is there. I'm not I'm just kind of just well, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I sure do.
So I like Aunt Mimi, and I think it's cool to have both cultures represented, and which one is more dominant in your household for food and language?
It's quite 50-50. What a great
Really?
question. Never thought about that. I never have thought about that. And I love that you bring that up because that's your art. That's what you do. I have never thought about that. Auntie Mimi, even though she lives in Utah, she's a big part of our household. She's Wesley's sister, and she brings light into our lives in regards to um, the perspectives she helps us with, the things that she tells us about, and reminds us about who we are. Okay, because she just has that role. But on the same note, I feel like when my parents visit, I feel like it's just again this contribution of both cultures from both sides of the family to where my kids are being raised in this household that is just so cool. I tell my kids, do you know how cool like your parents are? Do you know how cool this whole thing is? Because it just is not, it's different. However, it's just so beautiful. And so that's such a great question. I have to say 50-50. We do, and with the foods, I'm sure just like many, we do the Persian food, we do soul food. We do soul food Sundays at Wesley's dad's house. And we do the Italian, we do, I mean, it's really so blended. And I love that. And there was actually real quick, we went to go see a friend one time and she took us to dim sum, which we had never tried before even though Bijan was so uncomfortable with the whole, with his taste buds being the way they were and taking things off in different ways, he still sat there and tried everything. And that's what I love. That's again where that comes into play in regards to how our kids are so open to
Yeah.
trying things and hearing things.
Yeah, Tessa is the open-minded one with food. Like, and in most stuff though. Yeah, and Taj, no, he's
I
he's like,
remember. I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, he's like me. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I love that.
I just stay to one thing. Yeah,
And I
because
just I have one story that I just want to mention. Okay, this story is one that just has truly, truly stayed with me in regards to my purpose for writing this book. I'm blessed that I can teach fourth graders. I've been teaching for 22 years, which I love my job, and I always say that I love my job. And then having the second platform to teach at CSUN for the incoming student teachers, and they're on their graduating, these are graduating level classes, and this is like their final semester. I was on Zoom my first day because that's when we started the last semester. We all were on Zoom, and I'm talking about myself. I talked about the kids, and then I said, "Oh, by the way, I'm becoming an author. I'm really excited. The book is called Blackersian. It's about this and this." And I just see one box in the corner from one of my students, emoji after emoji after emoji, holding her mouth, going crazy. And then it was now time for the students to introduce themselves because I had done my part in regards to their adjunct professor and introducing who I am and what the course will look like, so on and so forth. So I went through everyone. I'm like, all right, why don't you go ahead and tell us who? She goes, you know, I'm Black Persian. I am Black and Persian. I am 25 years old and I have never met anyone that's like me. I thought I was alone
oh
all this time.
yeah, see,
And that moment right there, Todd, I tell you, it was so emotional when we talked about that. We talked about, who she is. And then we have now built this friendship. She met the family. The next step is to also connect, Gavin, the other Black Persians that we know,
yes,
and building this small community of Black Persians so that no other student or no other person, which Wes did feel this way for a very long time, where he did feel like the black sheep of the family, where he didn't fit
I see.
into any parts. And so when she said, "That's me, that's me," and oh my goodness, I thought it was just me all this time because she does not have any social media either.
Oh,
And so she's very in tune about where she wants to be. And I thought, oh my goodness, I reached one person. And you know,
Yeah.
that's really, again, going back to the purpose. So I just have to share that story with you because
No, it's great.
it truly is. It truly is. You know, and I heard one time somewhere someone say that there's like three phases in your life. You know, you go through especially in your career, you go through the master phase, and then you start mentoring, and then the third phase would be making a difference.
Mhm.
And I'm there by the grace of God, like making a difference. And knowing that I have this platform to do so, I don't take it lightly at all. So when I'm done with my 10 o'clock, 7 to 10 at night class, I go to put the kids to sleep and I'm so happy and I'm so excited. And Bishan goes, "Aren't you tired, Mom?" So it's like this natural high of being able
To
to
reach.
really feed, you're right, to teach and to feed these minds what it is that I wish we were told when we were in school,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I just had
Well,
to share that.
yeah, I think that's great because that's kind of what I was alluding to before. That that's for another podcast, but but I'd love for you to be on it. It's I'm trying to get like all educators um where we teach, but we teach antiquated things that have no purpose in your life versus what is today. So it's kind of like, oh, we're using computers and we can figure out the DNA of a cow mixed with a rabbit, but God forbid we get along, because then there would be no purpose for war.
Amen. Right.
So, what was the hardest part creating the book and the obstacles you didn't see coming?
The most challenging was probably, although I just feel like the most challenging for me was the illustrators, QBN Studios, which were probably the most amazing people I have ever worked with. So kind, so generous, patient. 99.999% of the illustrations were from me.
Okay.
And when I would say, "What do you think of this?" their answer was, "You tell us what you think."
Okay.
And of course, once it was completed, I appreciated that so much more because I realized that was my vision and they
Yeah.
brought that brain to life as
Yeah.
opposed to what they thought they should put, and I
Yeah.
bring my input. So I think that was the most challenging part. I was like, but I just need something for this.
Yeah.
And they were so kind and saying, just take your time, think what you think. Do you think you want to put this? And maybe once in a while, but I think that was the most challenging part, is to get that idea in our heads and then get it sketched out. Does that match what I had in mind? But it was just they're such amazing people to work with, and they
See,
just made it so easy.
that's so cool that you say it because that's been my obstacle with the first book. So the other ones are just more or less writing. I don't think I have anything that's needed
Tracing your
really.
pictures, right?
Yeah, yeah. But the one for the kids, it's the hardest part was like I drew out a bunch of stuff. Asia tried to do stuff and then computer stuff, but it's just for me not satisfying. And like I would say I'm a perfectionist, but it made me like when I looked at yours, I was like, wow, you know what I think is really cool is that you give these people their shine, because that allows me
Mhm.
to say, oh, okay, cool. I don't have a fear because I know you. So don't have a
Right,
fear to call these people.
right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
A-
really cool.
Absolutely. And I think that they just made it that much more easy. And, there was even one time towards the end, let me just tell you what great of people, because you just don't find people like this anymore. Towards the end, when we're just kind of finishing up, the invoices and things, they actually reached out and they said, "Hey, you know what? There's actually been an overpayment because we didn't do this, and this, and this on this page, or we didn't do a double. How would you like us to reimburse you?" I
Nice.
would have never known, Todd. I
Yeah.
would have never known. But that again, I believe in karma, and I truly believe that that was just good coming back and coming back for me. So yes, absolutely.
Well, that's great because they just got another customer.
I hope so. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, I don't. I looked at what they, what you guys did, and I think if I same way, like I show them what I have, that's wonderful.
And let me just say, as being a perfectionist, there are 3 pages that I wanted to go back and redo, because until you get the book in your hand, you don't realize that maybe the flaws. So there is movement on every page except a few, and I thought, why not? Let me go back and fix those. And they said it's just so easy to go back and fix it and upload a new one, which I will do. But that goes back to your perfectionist part. I foresee you doing that a few times. But again, when you get the book in your hand and you start flipping it, that's when it just all comes together.
Yeah, that's cool. You said it took about a year, right?
About a year, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I listen. I don't
I
seem
agree
like
with
I'm
you.
all there most of the time, but
Oh, yes, you do, Todd.
so have you guys ever had a dance party like with the mix of your music at the house?
Always.
Always. That's cool.
Always.
So
Yes.
which music do they lean towards, or is
They,
it kind of
they
even?
no, they definitely listen to a lot more of the hip hop and the R&B, if
Okay.
anything. And speaking of that, actually for the book signing event, I had a whole playlist that I had been putting together of different music from both cultures. And that day, I was so overwhelmed, I didn't even put it on. I just put on, whatever, and
Whatever's there.
we ended up hiring the violinist who I loved anyway. But
Yeah.
absolutely, there I had a whole playlist, still have it. It says, book launch party, where it starts with the Gugoosh and and
Okay.
and then the Bob Marley, and then going on and on and on, even down to all the ones that they listen to. But yeah, absolutely, they
I I really like the violinist.
oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah, that was awesome.
I'm so glad.
Um, he did Billie Jean.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at you. And real quick, before you go to your next question, that was a very important milestone for me. And I don't want to take too much time on this, but I have to let it be known that it was important for me for the children to see it's never too late to chase those dreams. Because I mean, it's such a cliche, we always say it, but here's mom, and I've already done this, and here I thought I was done, but I had a couple of things on my own list, because I know we started out the session with talking about those things that you want to do, and to celebrate that. And I wanted to go out with a bang so they could see, no matter what it is, you celebrate yourself. And I remember
Okay.
sitting in the car that night after the event. And so Bijan turns and says, "So, mom, when I have a big accomplishment or a big achievement, can I throw myself a party?" And I said, "That's
Why
exactly
not?
what you do. That's
Why
exactly
not?
what, that's exactly what mom did." And I really wanted to go all out so they can know what that feeling is like.
Yeah,
And
that
there's no limits, no limits.
we were having this conversation earlier. We were talking about the same thing. Like you go out and if you accomplish something, regardless of what it is, like I have my poetry album, right? And I'm in perfectionist brain right now, where I'm like, oh, I just want to hear my voice, because I don't listen to my podcast. I just don't, because I
Wow, you should.
no, I would tear it apart. I'd be like, I should have said that,
Hmm.
or
Oh,
or
you're right. I would do the same. Yes.
yeah, and I just don't like my voice, but I learned to accept it's my voice. Like I have a voice. So uh but for me, it's like people could say, "Oh, you got a podcast, like what's that gonna do?" But when I sit and think about it, I've been consistent,
Mm.
right? And then I look back at like what I was talking to Manny about, because I've known him about 18 years, and it doesn't matter. He said it doesn't matter if you have like Grammys and stuff, you still have good music. Like, I've been like real hesitant with the poetry and stuff. And then I thought about it and I was like, listen, it's not the worst thing in the world, but
Mm.
it's not the best thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's my thing, right? And
Bam.
you know what I mean?
Bam.
And the people that are like-minded people, they appreciate it. And if you don't, you don't, and that's it.
And that's a big lesson. And I wanted my kids to also know. I said, listen, not everyone's going to love this book. People might come to this book event and get it and go home and read it and say, that's it. That's what all the fuss was about. I said, however, it's not up to you or myself to come and defend this matter, because I had one purpose, and
Let
we
it
know our
go.
purpose. That's right. And not everybody has to love it, and it's not our job to make sure say no, you have to love this book, or you have to love, Mr. Todd's Corner or whatnot. No, it's this is our thing.
Yeah.
And I think again that's where we see eye to eye on that. It's our purpose, it's our art, and as long as we're happy with it, I believe that that's really what cultivates the whole thing.
Yeah, like I had a song, it's probably 20 years old, but I had a song called Not Everyone Loves Andy Warhol. And it was like a, uh, kind of smart ass kind of way
Putting it.
yeah, but it was just because that brainwashing thing. See, I've always been on that where it's like because I'm behavior, I know emotions, like I just know emotions. And if you put that in the wrong hands, which is I won't say anything,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
you can manipulate not just a culture, but cultures to you know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And that whitewashes what is really there in the soil.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So back to your book. So did you coin Blackersian?
I have to, there's a story with that where when I first met Wesley, 21, 20, we go back since seventh grade, but when we first met and when we have our emails that we used to exchange, his email has always been Blackersian. And so hence I owe him that name. We talked about it and he always says, "Oh, you took the name." And I said, "No, you created it." We brought it together because of our kids. So um, it is now ours. I mean, I had to go through the steps to making sure that Blackersian is is I guess licensed or owned by us, but it was
Yeah,
him.
trademark.
Yeah, it was him. Yes.
Okay, cool.
I can't take any credit for that.
So will you continue writing? I have three.
I love this question because we have our neighbors across the street that are Indian, and she's 15, he's 10, and I think it's so nice that they love the book. Like I just love that. I think that means so much to me. And just the other day, he said, and they're Indian, so because one of my best friends is Indian, I know Mossy means like auntie, so they say Seppi Mossy.
Oh, okay.
Are you gonna make a second book? I'm waiting. And I turned and I stopped. And I was like, what did you say? Because we discuss it at home amongst us. Because this was written from Layla's point of view. And so Bijan goes, Mom, the next one has to be from me. And it's my turn.
Yeah, I get
And
my shine.
right, get my shot at it. I want to be the star of the next one. And it just meant so much to me to hear from someone else that they would even be interested in a second one. So I would hope that there would be that the plan was this summer to start working on one, but we'll see where it goes. And I do hope that I do. I already had some thoughts in regards to what it would be about, but specifically from Bijan's point of view, I think that would be kind of cool.
I love to see mixture. So did you and your husband face any barriers, family wise or outside, like while you were dating?
Uh, the two words that come to my mind would definitely be difficult terrain. To such a rough ride to where, because of the difference and because of who we are, and specifically my family, having the old school Persian mentality, it was certainly difficult. And he was not accepted for many years, even after having children. And the whole idea was so resisted. And we just came across the saying the other day. I'm going to tell you. It says one reason people resist change is because they focus on what they have to give up instead of what they have to gain. And that one really, really, resonated with me, because there was so much resistance for us to be together. but I knew who he was and I knew his heart, and I knew we wanted to be together. And for that, the wedding was certainly different, where family members did not attend because of the differences. But I do believe now that we're looking back and everything has settled and the dust has settled, and all those family members have come to love him for who he is. I am hopeful that this phase will just keep getting easier and easier as we go along with our time. Is this what we see in our media and in our country? No. But I'm very
No comment.
no comment. And I don't want to go there. But
Not for this
I am
show.
one of those. I am one of those who is just so hopeful. And this little book, Blackersian, I'm hopeful that it will be a mirror for someone. I just had this conversation with the head of the equity department for Los Angeles Unified, this school district, who's this
Nice.
phenomenal woman. And she said, your book is a mirror for some people because they get to see themselves.
Right. They're
And it was
represented.
yes, representation and unity and diversity. All those things, especially in a classroom, especially within our kids and our children's lives. If we spend, just like you said, enough time educating and opening minds as opposed to on wars and everything else that's going on, this world would be a different place. But I am so hopeful. And this, like I said, this little book, I'm hoping that it does become a mirror for some, even if it's for that one person who I already brought up my story about my student from CSUN earlier. That to me was the ultimate. I mean, this is not for money. This is not to make any kind of money from. It was just a dream come true to be able to write about something like this, and to have my children and their children, and so on and so forth in our family have a place, have a connection in
Yeah.
regards to who they are.
I think it's a beautiful thing that you like I said, the reason why, like for me, when I asked you to come on was because number one, like most the premise of the show, I guess is the best way I could say it, is uh stories and solutions. But I don't listen to podcasts and I don't really watch talk shows for the simple fact that they're just talking most of the time. And you can hear people talk. I mean, everybody has good ideas, but you can talk and some talk at each other, some talk with each other.
Mm.
But I never hear anyone put aside their view to say, well, check this out. This guy, he said this and that works. And you said this and that makes sense. And I was thinking, and you actually have a solution. So I felt like if I do this myself, where
Mm.
I'm giving um, a solution because I'm like a behavior modifier, right? So like for me, I like on the side, like my goal is that I'm working with either just people. Right now I work with kids, but I show them that there's nothing wrong with you, that it, people tend to look at the issue versus saying, well, what are they doing right?
Mhm.
And this little thing right here doesn't fit with this guy, or else it wouldn't stand out,
Mm.
right? So when you explain to them the negative of what it's doing to their life and they're wanting to change, miracles happen because it just happens to be that way, right? And like, if I can give a solution weekly about some topic that I'm talking about, or somebody's, sometimes people email me, or I had a student, former student, I had her in middle school. She's just graduating high school. And she put on my Instagram something about she had an issue and she wanted to know what I think. And I was like,
Mm.
wow, like I've been
Yeah.
removed, you know what I mean? And years have gone
Mhm.
by. What made you, you always listen. I was first thing I asked, and she put, you always listen to us. And that made me think, you know, if you don't say something, you're actually doing the wrong, you're doing harm.
I I couldn't agree with you on that more because I am the one that likes to shake things up, but I look at it, especially if it's in my school or wherever else it is, I look at it through the lens of I'm the advocate for the students. And if I don't say something, I'm failing them.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what you just said. And when we first started talking, that was something that was also brought up. Like, my purpose is here to make sure that not any student is overlooked because of who they are or what they look like.
Yeah, and that's why with the point I was trying to get to with like why I asked you was I was thinking when I when I saw your book was sitting, it's better, it makes more sense if I explain it because I'm trying to visualize everything.
Right.
So your book was sitting next to Taj's foot massager thing, and I picked it up and I started thinking about it. I was like, you know, why aren't these type of things where you know how they have like show and tell?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like when we have these how you say it, like hero days, how like the influences of what we do as an educator, right? And we could say, why don't people say things like, oh, look up this book, we have hero day, and somebody comes in and it has to be, if you're black, it's Jackie Robinson, it's this, it's that, it's always the same four people, but it's never like, well, I'm black and Persian, or I'm Asian and black, or
Mm-hmm.
or you know what I mean? It's more like, but you're the 0.1, you know, whatever percent,
Yeah.
and therefore nobody wants to hear your what you want to say, and without saying anything, that's what's being said. And I'm
Yeah.
saying this from a guy that took data for 10 straight years,
All right.
sitting in as a ghost in the back of a room doing behavior therapy with kids, but watching the teachers and sitting
Mm-hmm.
there thinking,
Mm-hmm.
when I become a teacher,
I'm not gonna do that.
yeah. And you know, the funny thing is, I always ask these kids. I have, matter of fact, it's not here, but my book that I'm reading right now, the bookmark is a piece of paper that I'll post it on my Instagram. But it's a piece of paper that puts, "You are the best teacher," and it was from a kid that I only met one time.
Oh.
He's in the third or fourth grade, and I asked at the end of the day, um, "What made you do this?" And he's like, "You're so chill, you're so
Mm,
cool, and you listen." And
that's a key.
you know what I mean? So I don't take this for granted. And it made me say, regardless of the money, because that's what you said earlier, regardless of the money, like you're doing this for your heart, from your heart, your soul. And like my books, if that was, it was for money, I would have put it out 6 years ago.
That's right.
It was a matter of, it doesn't feel right, or you know, whatever it is, and it has to mean something. And you know, um so I truly thank you because you made me see, like, okay, and it's not like I'm not thinking like, oh, because it's not on uh I don't even know the name of these shows anymore, the Today Show or something. That's not what I mean. It's someone that's like-minded, um, like-hearted,
Yes.
uh, um, purpose-driven, and like your, how explain it without saying too much, like your soul, like the way I know you off this thing, you know, that it doesn't matter if you sold one or sold a million. It was something you felt you wanted to do, and the same reason why I do what I do. And it made me say, I have no reason not to do this anymore.
I'm so humbled. I'm so truly humbled by your kind words. But even more, I'm so grateful for the fact that you see it and you get it. Because not it's not too often that people do. It's a small thing on a scale, but for me and my family and everything else, it was on it was the big picture, and that's what it was. So I thank you so much for seeing that and recognizing that, and taking the time to recognize it. I feel like our everyday lives are, it moves so quickly, but taking the time to sit back and, like you said, you grabbed the book, you thought about that. I'm humbled by that. I can't even explain to you, because at the end of the day, this book has now brought us here talking. And again, this is another avenue that just sparked this amazing path for me.
Yeah, yeah. I thank you for coming on the show and sharing and where can people get your book? And the other thing I wanted to tell you is there are people in Peru listening to us. so
Oh,
so as much as I thought, well, I'm telling you, when I started something 30 something episodes ago, I never thought I'd be like, yeah, right, but
right.
we don't know what our energy is doing. So keep it up
I
and
agree.
let
Well,
people
thank
know.
you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. Well, when the book was finished and we were gonna actually go ahead and publish it, um, the illustrator said, "You do know this is when we went through all the things. It says, well, how much do you want it to go for? And then in Europe it's going for this much. In Canada it's going this." And I said, hold on, I need you to wait 1 second. Are you telling me this is? And he goes, yes, it's worldwide. So I had no idea that this Ingram Sparks, who is the distributor of the book, is one of the world's biggest book sell companies.
oh, that's cool.
Prior to even know, I thought, oh, here I am, just trying to just get it. So then it dropped. I think when I lost it and when I decided to do the book launch was when I typed my name at Barnes and Noble and my book popped up.
It came up.
I was over the moon
Yeah.
because that was big. So Barnes and Noble, Amazon, there's an ebook. So it is an Apple. I mean, it is on so many different dimensions. But I'm just so blessed to be able to even have that again. That goes back that circle. What I was saying, those good things come back. I'm hoping that that's what it is. I did something right along the way, because when I saw that and when I actually saw my name and everything. And my dad said, I don't want mine from you. I want it from Barnes and Noble. You send it to my house from Barnes and Noble.
Oh, that's nice.
I know. And I thought, okay, I could do that.
So seeked out a distributor?
It is the publishing company.
Oh,
So
sorry. That's what I
right,
meant to
right.
say.
And I meant to say that too. The publishing company distributes for me. So it's just once I sign with them, then they distribute it for me, and I don't have to do anything else. But Ingram Sparks again happen to be one of the world's biggest. And who else? How else would I know this if it wasn't for QBN Studios, and if it wasn't for Chris and Quinn, who literally, and I have to give a big shout out to them because they held my hand along the way through every step of the process, to the point where we were ready to upload, and Chris noticed that maybe the centering of the word Blackersian wasn't centered. He goes, no, 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 hang on, I'm not going to push the upload button. It was the last step. He goes, no, 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 hang on. And he said, Quinn, can you fix this? And he goes, it looks like it was like 1 1/8 of a millimeter off. And I was like, wow, nobody does that these days. They're so ready to go
You
and
had to just push it through.
yes. So I truly, I couldn't have finished this journey without them, because they held my hand through every step of the way and brought me to this point where I knew who Ingram Sparks was and signed, and so on and so forth. So yes, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and so on and so forth. Yes.
Well, congratulations to you. And I do appreciate your time. I'll let
I'm
you
so
know.
grateful for this. I'm so grateful for your time, and your listeners. As I tell you, you should listen to yourself, because you have that voice that is uplifting, spiritual, and can help. And even when you were interviewing your son at such a young, at such a young prime age, there was still something to walk away with. So I thank you for this platform that you have created that is now an outlet for others to be able to connect to.
Oh, thank you. So you take care of yourself,
Thank you so much. Say hi to
and
the fam fam.
and then pronounce it Blackersian.
Blackersian, you got it.
Okay, so
Blackersian.
and you can go to Barnes and Nobles. You can go online. She's worldwide.
Woohoo!
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.
Okay.